Hi friends, so we are here to talk about the Real Housewives of New York season 14 season finale. And it wasn't the most exciting finale in the world, but what I will say is it definitely left off feeling like they could have gone further, like they had more to talk about. Not that they necessarily needed to at this time, obviously because they're not. But we have more that we can do. Even like the exit script thingies weren't really giving me anything of substance. So, it feels like they stopped at a point where it's like almost kind of like cliffhangery, but not as literally. But, good for them. They can come back next season and we'll see what's the tea, because that's kind of what this episode had me like left thinking. We start off the finale and Aaron and Uber are meeting up and they're doing like the bumper boat card thingies on ice. And, afterwards they have a conversation. And I like how Uba was telling Aaron, well, kind of holding Aaron accountable, but not like in a crazy way. But she's like, yeah, you were kind of like on pivot when we did the whole like swingers thing or whatever. And, Aaron is giving her perspective again. And she's just saying, she really felt like they're very good at like cherry picking a specific issue when they know there's not really a specific issue. They're just kind of being weird, but whatever. She kind of cherry picks out of all the things, and she's just like, I just thought it was so strange that he would say like, his favorite thing about his wife is that he gets to do whatever he wants. Like, that should be the time to say something endearing about your wife. And I like that Uba again pushed back, and she mentioned this before a little bit last time in her confessional, I think it was, though, and she said it out loud. She's like, I just feel like that was one of the more loving things that you could say. Like, that's how a relationship should be. You should be able to be yourself as an individual and then notice you have your partner as well. So we didn't really see Aaron giving too much pushback on that. I don't know that Aaron had too much pushback on that. I will imagine that she didn't, because again, I feel like that was something that she cherry picked. Like, I don't think that she really gave a damn about that. It was just for the sake of like picking at Jessel. So whatever. It was like, so girl, yeah, I didn't necessarily think that was weird, but what I did think was weird was the fact that Sai's husband David was, asking me why I wasn't married, like why I didn't have a man. Like she felt like that was inappropriate. And I can understand that, it is an uncomfortable question to be asked, I think, at the end of the day. And you don't necessarily want, I mean, that's somebody's husband, so that's not even, a connection to you. So it's like your husband is asking me like why I don't have a man. It can come off like that. I don't think he meant that at all, but like when he asked, even in the moment, I was like, this is weird. It made me feel some type of way. But like I said last episode, not too much on David because I don't know him like that. But yeah, I thought it was weird too. So, I'm glad that she's bringing it up. And then also we know like behind the scenes that Uba has this guy that she's dating, I guess, that she revealed to Sai, and Sai is the only one that knows. So it's kind of the background to that, because Uba's just like, they don't have anything to worry about. I don't know why that's his business, and we move on. It was interesting then because we're seeing like I thought I understood kind of what the like cliques were in this group, but they seemed kind of weird, and maybe not even necessarily on purpose. Maybe these people just had to film with each other on these certain days, so it's kind of being thrown out for me. But I don't know. I'm still trying to follow. But we get the scene of BRYNN and Sai, and they're at Central Park because because BRYNN is either she was picking it out or they already had the tree that she's doing for her grandmother in Central Park. I can't remember which one, but they're there for that. But it was interesting because Sai in her confessional is saying, that she and BRYNN have this relationship that they can't really describe, but they're really close, which, I never heard Sai say she's really close to any of the ladies. So I'm like, okay, that's why I'm saying that it's weird to me. Like, I don't know if I would have picked that out. And then obviously this is like a good editing / producer moment, because we know that this big blow up is going to happen between Sai and BRYNN at the end of the episode. We then go over to another interesting dynamic. So again, maybe like a producer thing, which is fun or whatever. But, we're at Jenna's house, and Jenna's working on something in this gorgeous bathroom of hers. But Jessel is doing like a photo shoot out in the main area for her business. At the end of the day, it was a very random link up type of thing, but it worked, I guess. It kind of felt like both the girls had to work that day, and the producer's like, hey, I need y'all to link. And they're like, well, I have to work. And she's like, I have to do this, and I had like COVID, like maybe like their spouses, and like they both have to work from home. It felt like, stay in this house, don't leave this house. We got to film you guys. You do your work in there, and Jenna, you go work in the bathroom. Like it felt very thrown together. But I did like being able to watch Jenna like help and creative direct. Like that was really fun to watch. And also because it's her space, so she knows the space and she's worked in that industry before, so she's familiar with it. So that was fun. And then Uba comes over and she's, you know, assisting as well on the model thing. So that was a lot of fun to watch. I think Jenna went to the store to get glue, is what that was, or something like that. But ultimately, you know, Uba and Jessel end up alone and they're like chatting in Jenna's gorgeous bathroom. And Uba's basically like, you know, how have you been? Like, what's been going on? And Jessel's just expressing, like, you know, she's feeling some type of way because she spoke with BRYNN, as we know from last episode. And BRYNN was telling her, like, all this stuff that Aaron and basically SAI were saying about her marriage. And I am realizing, like, yeah, we got, like, a in the moment type of thing last episode, but obviously we didn't get to hear 100% what Jessel wanted to say about this. So I'm like, okay, great, I'm dialed in. Like, I didn't even realize that we hadn't gotten this reaction. And she kind of just like outlined, she's like, I'm over the edge with them. Like, I just feel like they've crossed the line. Like, she's really upset, more upset than I guess expected her to be. Not that she shouldn't be, just because she's always kind of just like cool and like, you know, whatever about the situation, but she's really being passionate about it. But I think that's because she and Uba have a really good relationship where they can sit and like talk openly. So I think that's why she's being as passionate and as open as she is about it now. But yeah, she's really offended, and she's just like, you know, it just feels like she's over the edge with the fact that now they're talking about her marriage. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, it's kind of crazy. And Uba's is equally passionate about it. And she's like, you know, I think that that's out of line. And it's like, she feels like, you know, weak people fight with that type of stuff. Like, if you want to talk about somebody's marriage, like, that's a weak thing to do. And she feels like she's just not feeling it. So it's interesting to hear that from Uba. And I do feel like Uba typically stands on her stuff, but like, I'm only wondering, like, as passionate as she is in having this conversation with Jessel, I'm always, I don't know, I'm wondering, like, is she like this one-on-one, this level, like, with Sai and with Aaron? Yes, she'll call them on it, like, we saw it. She even called Aaron on her stuff a little bit earlier in the episode. We talked about that. But, like, is it with the same energy? Like, because she really seemed like she was very turned off by it. So I'm like, I wonder if that will ever turn her off of Aaron and Sai, like, or is it just kind of like a, you know, I don't know if that makes sense. But I'm just like, eh. But basically, you know, Uba asked Jessel, like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to address it? And she's very much so just like, I mean, I might. Like, if I decide to address them, it'll be very quickly. I'll chop that up and I'll get to going. Or she's like, I might not say anything at all. And I'm not mad at her because, you know, she talked about it last episode with BRYNN. And BRYNN's like, you know, she was like, I don't think you're sticking up for yourself. And Jess was like, I think I have. I just want to move forward. So I don't blame her for not wanting to get into it. And I guess she was losing her voice or something like that. So yeah, like, girl, please, I'm over it. We next get a link up, which is a little bit more obvious, and it's Sai and Aaron, and they're getting masks for BRYNN's birthday party, which is like a masquerade party or whatever. But I guess because it's Halloween season, like right now, I just kept thinking it was a Halloween party. Or maybe it's a mixture. I don't know. I know they were at a Halloween store. I think my mind was just elsewhere because we were just watching Aaron and Sai, and you know, you need like a fun escape from like scenes like that. They have to obviously touch on the, you know, going to swingers thing. And Sai is, you know, she's like, I'm still annoyed. Like, just as annoyed as I was at the thing with Jessel, like, I'm still annoyed with Jessel. And it's like, okay, like, I guess that's something that you initiated though, so it's very weird to say like you're still annoyed. Like, that's your fault, so like you holding on to that is even more your fault. Like, why are you harboring? It's kind of weird. Like, I don't know. She's really hell bent on this thing of like, and I knew. I'm glad to hear her say this because I said this in the last review. Like, I knew when Jessel called her a mean girl, that hit her to her gut, because she's like, she's saying it right now. She's like, when she called me a mean girl, like, she specifically points that out. So now I'm understanding now. I retract my former statement. I know why you're still annoyed, because you were called a mean girl and it hit a nerve. But you know, she really feels like it just always feels like this like freedom of speech argument. You know, when people say like things that they shouldn't say, and they're like, well, freedom of speech, like it feels like what SAI does all the time. She's just like, well, I'm just being honest. Like, I know it's abrasive, and I know that that's something I can work on, but like for her to call me a mean girl is crazy. Like, is it? Because like you're literally admitting right now that you could work on your communication. Like, it doesn't seem like you're blind to that. So I don't know why you feel like being called a mean girl is so far fetched. Like, what do you think you're doing? Like, just because that's your truth and your honesty doesn't mean that it's not mean as directed towards other people. Isn't Sai an adult? Like, I'm confused. Aaron agrees, as Aaron would. So, I mean, girl, whatever. Aaron then brings up the fact that, and this didn't feel like she was trying to be messy. It kind of felt like I think she is genuinely a friend to Uba, but she also wanted to be a friend to Sai and give her a heads up. And she's like, well, Uba feels some type of way because David basically addressed her about not having a man. Sai didn't really let it bother her too much. I kind of thought she might blow up, but then again, this doesn't have anything to do with Jessel, so there's no reason for her to be screaming. But she was just like, whatever, she'll be fine, which I think was like some passive aggressiveness though, and like what I thought was her being messy, because then she throws out like she'll be fine because she's dating somebody. It felt like she threw that out to be messy, in my opinion. But she claims that as soon as she said it, like she wished she hadn't said anything. I feel like I think that part is true, but not for the reason that she's saying. Like, I don't know if she was meaning to hold this secret so close for a number of reasons. I think that she knew she messed up though, because she said it to Aaron, and Aaron proceeded to ask her 7 different ways, like, well, who is it? Like, what is he? That little voice that Aaron puts on. Who is it? Like, what is he? What does he do? Like, where is he from? Like, how much do you know? What did she tell you? And inside's like, I can't tell you anything. So I'm almost leaning towards the side thing, because I'm like, okay, well, she didn't say anything. Like, she is making it clear that that's her personal business. But I'm also like, but you brought it up, and I feel like you brought it up intentionally, like in like a snarky way, like that was your get back, kinda. That's how I feel. That's how I saw it. But ultimately, she does not give Aaron any other details besides the fact that she's dating. So, and she's like, that's her personal business. Like, she seemed very passionate about that. So we'll see where that goes. Aaron does say that she's upset though. Of course, Aaron had to be upset. So I think that I would have assumed that Aaron was gonna come in and say that she was upset, but I just didn't know about what. Like, that was it was like next note Aaron's upset about, and then there was just a blank space waiting. She's upset that Uba didn't tell her first because she feels like she's really close to Uba, but she also says, like, she knows that they went through their thing and they're kind of figuring it out, but she's like, still, it still feels some type of way. So fair, I guess, whatever. We get what I lived for was like Jessel reading Aaron inside to Pavitt because they're talking about the party, and he's just like, well, like, what are you gonna do? Like, how are you feeling? And she literally like goes in on Aaron before she even gets to side. Like, it was like individually. He's like, Aaron's obsessed with me. He's a parrot. Like, no capacity to think for herself. Aaron needs to go sit in her sad corner in Tribeca and stop worrying about me. Like, she was going in. She almost didn't even have any reads left for Sai when he was like, oh, well, what about Sai? And like, he's just trying to get it out. He's like, okay, well, you've knocked Aaron down. Like, what's up with Sai? How you feeling about her? Let's get it all out. And he's in his confessional. You can tell he's over it too. I love Pavitt's confessionals. They're so much fun. And he's like, I don't know why Sai and Aaron are so like worried about our marriage. Like, are they projecting? Possibly so. So obviously that's a very pointed question that the producers asked him, and good for them, because I think that's a good point that needed to be made. He asked the same question that Uba asked. He's like, well, are you going to address them? Like, what's your tea? It's like he's trying to participate just as much, and I really appreciate that. And she's like, same answer. I may and I may not. And at this point, she feels like she's probably a little bit sicker now, like maybe she had a cold or something. So I know my girl was really just not in the mood. Like, things had not gotten better. Her voice, she looks tired. She got to go deal with these girls at this finale party, and it's a BRYNN party, so obviously it's going to be some things going. So she's just not in the mood. So she's like, look, if I feel like getting into them, like she said, real quick, I'll chop that up real quick, 1, 2. And if I do not, then I won't. And it is what it is. We'll just see. Ate that right on up. And Pavitt comes right around with the cherry on the top, and he's like, well, let's just prepare. You gotta have some shots. And he's like, oh, tequila. So, like, let's Immediately at Brynn's party, we get a scene of David approaching Uba, and he apologizes ish, I guess. He's just kind of like buttering her up or whatever. And she's kind of not trying to have the conversation. I could tell she wasn't just like, it wasn't a huge deal for her, I guess. Like, she definitely said it was like inappropriate, but she wasn't upset about it, and they kind of brush it off. And then the camera does a weird thing of like zooming in on their hug, and I don't have much I want to say about that. We get a usual scene of like all the ladies being together, and Princess Jessel is showing up late because my girl should be able to show up late. She's gonna work the hardest, and basically they're like, "Where's Jessel? Like, what's going on?" And it seems like Brynn is trying to like amp up Sai because she's like, "Well, you don't like Jessel, so like, where is she?" And Sai's kind of like, which I do like. Like, Sai's like trying to dust it off. She's like, "Look, like, I don't really have anything negative to say. Like, I struggle to say this positive note, but she does sometimes seem like she's trying to avoid being mean sometimes. So she does say like, it's fine. It's a group setting. Like, Jessel's cool in a group setting, but like one on one is not my jam. And okay, like, I guess generally it's fine to have that opinion, but again, I don't feel like Jessel has ever done anything to side. But whatever. So finally, Jessel arrives, kind of like right when they're having that conversation. She comes in and she speaks, and she gives a very general, like, I think literally standing right there where I think it was like three people, but obviously it was Aaron and it was Sai. She's just like, "Hi, like, how are you guys?" And like, "We're good." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then she walks off. And Aaron's like, "No hugs or no nothing." And it's like, girl, she stopped and said hello. Like, no, we're not gonna hug and kiki and cackle. Like, we're not. And Sai's just kind of like, whatever. Like, I don't even care. Like, that's what she should always be doing. Like, I want her to ignore me, so she should ignore me. And it's like, Sai, like, so now the Sai's gone because she doesn't care, which she never does. I just thought it was funny how then Aaron has to go like approach Jessel, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And Jessel's like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?" Like, why are you always it's so passive aggressive? Like, what do you mean, am I okay? Because I didn't hug you? Like, yeah, girl, I'm fantastic. And she's like, "Well, you didn't say hi to me back there." And Jess was like, "I did say hi." We get the clip of her saying hello, as I just described. And Jess was like, "Look, girl, like, you're trying to start with me, but at the end of the day, let's keep it a buck." And Brynn came to me and told me all the mess that you've been talking about me. And as she was saying it, Aaron was just like, "No, no, no." So I'm like, "No, what? Like, what are you denying? Like, what happened? Like, what is or isn't true?" And we don't get that answer because then Sai comes up, and I don't know if she like said something, but then Jessel turns to her to gather her on up, and she's like, "And you, like, I know you don't even like me, so it just is what it is. Like, I don't care." Aaron's still over there saying like, "No, no, no," and mumbling. Sai's like, "It's not that I don't like you. I don't want to be best friends." And Jessel's like, "Well, I don't want to be best friends either. Like, girl, like, whatever." So she switches back on over to Aaron, and she's like, "Do you want to just go take a shot?" Because Aaron's just trying to give BS at this point. So she's like, "Girl, Sai, you can get on. Have a good day." And like, "Girl, let's just go take a shot. Like, whatever. I'm not doing this." Like, so they're at the bar, and now Aaron has to give this goofy rationale of like, what, I thought we were good, but like, I've heard terrible things about from you and as well. And it's like, why are you trying to do this tit for tat thing? Like, you literally have been sitting around talking about my marriage. You can't even give a full denial of it. You're just over there saying no, no, no. You don't even know what you're saying no to. And then you want to compare and say, "I've heard terrible things about you as well." Like, you have a list of things that I've done. Girl, Aaron, like, first of all, that was so long ago. Second of all, you're just now bringing it up. Like, that's not even a real thing. Like, even when you were told about it, you made light of it. Like, it's nothing, and you know that. Like, be accountable. Then, of course, she has to cherry pick another issue with Jessel, and she's like, "And the parrot thing. Like, I heard about the parrot thing," and she's trying to say why she's not a parrot, and Jessel's just really not trying to hear it, especially because Aaron's like, I don't do that. Like, it's not even a thing. And it's like, but it is. And Jessel's like, "Girl, like, every time Sai has an issue with me, you're right there going along with it," which is very true. But I guess Aaron's thing is just like, I don't even know why I had to be called a parrot. Like, why are you upset with me when this whole thing was happening with Sai? And it's like, because y'all are both doing it. Like, yes, in the moment at the swingers place, like, yeah, in the moment, like, you weren't talking about it because you were letting Sai take the heat, but y'all both sit around and talk about it. And she's like, "I was mad at both of you. Like, I'm not just mad at you. I'm not just mad at Sai. I'm mad at both of you. It's a two-party issue." Brynn pops up. Brynn kept having the weirdest pop-ups. I understand it was her party, but like, She wasn't involved in any of these conversations, so she definitely made sure she popped up. She's like, well, Jessel, I don't think that you were mad enough. And it's like, you keep trying to stir stuff up. And it was weird to not see Aaron. Like, Aaron didn't clock that. Like, BRYNN was literally trying to escalate it. Like, Jessel, you're not mad enough. Like, you need to be madder. And she's standing side by side with Aaron, who's still saying nothing. BRYNN has gathered the whole party, the whole group, and she's like, let's do a party game, and that this party game is let's air all of our grievances about each other. And everybody's like, girl, what? Like, what the hell? Like, what type of birthday party is this? She's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And she's like, specifically, like, I know there's all this stuff going on with the SAI and the Aaron and the JESSEL. So it's like, yes, we all need to come together, and we need to tell each other how much we hate each other at my birthday. Ready, set, go. Do it. Nobody's getting into it faster than her, because she's like, well, let's start with Pavid. And she's like, well, Pavid, we were at your house, and you first called SAI bipolar, so they have to go down that whole list of like, oh, you called her bipolar, and that was so messed up, and you should have done that. And even though he retracted the statement, so that was my argument that I was already making. I'm like, he retracted the statement when you guys talked about it, so why are you bringing that up? BRYNN was prepared for that. And she's like, and then even when you retracted it, you straight up called her a B word. Which, interestingly enough, even if he did, we didn't get the footage of. So I'm very curious about that. Like, why didn't we? But then we also get him in his confessional, like, if I did call her that, then that's what she is. Like, so obviously he didn't recall. I'm not mad at him. And I don't know if anybody is. Like, I would like to get some perspective on it. Like, after just watching the episode, I'm not mad at him. But and it didn't seem like, SAI didn't make a big deal about it. And her husband, like, after that, there's a scene of Pavid, like, talking to her husband, and he didn't say anything about it. So, we move. Her reasoning with Pavid, and he's like, well, your wife lies all the time. Like, she talks in circles. So, Jessel intersects, and she's like, when? She's like, well, girl, you lie about so many things. Like, okay, when? Like, what things? So, again, Jessel says, when? And she's like, Vietnam. And Jessel, again, ever so calmly, she's like, so what? And SAI starts screaming. Again, she's like, nobody cares. Why are you yelling? Like, if you don't care. And Jessel's checking her like, girl, don't yell at me. Telling her twice, don't yell at me. Like, literally gathering her up. She looks so dumb. Oh, so we go down this whole rabbit hole again, where they have to show the clips, and everything that SAI is explaining is not occurring in the clips. Like, she's like, you told me that you were going the week after the staycation, and you told me that you had the ticket, and all the clips are being played, and none of this was shown. None of that happened. And ultimately, Pavid gets up and he walks away, and Jessel leaves as well. So, girl, like, whatever. I did like, though, like, in the middle of this, because I did, like, while they were kind of talking about it, Uba was just kind of sitting there texting, which I don't blame her. But then she does get up, and she's like, let me ask you this, like, why does it matter? Like, why does it matter? So I like that she was able to kind of break it up, and it wasn't hard to break up because it was so dumb of a conversation. So, again, we move. While Pavid is over there talking to David, Jessel walks up, and she's having a conversation with David, and David's like, look, I don't think it's that my wife doesn't like you, it's the fact that you don't open up. And I'm just like, that's what, like, if, okay, let's pretend that is a reason. If the fact that Jessel didn't open up was causing SAI to scream and yell in Jessel's face not one but two times in public settings, do we find that to be rational? Like, do we feel like that makes sense? That's kind of insane. And it's just like, who is SAI to be the opening up police? Like, who are you to tell somebody that they're not opening up? And why does that enrage you at the end of the day? Like, those two questions have to be answered. And the fact that your husband is able to articulate it means that you went home and told him that same BS verbatim. Like, you really are on this rock of people need to open up to me or I'm pissed off. And that is insane. But even while they're having this conversation, SAI comes up, like, what are you guys talking about? And I'm expecting her to start screaming again, but she seemed like she had tuckered herself out from the screaming 5 minutes before. And she's just like, look, I just wanna get to know you at the end of the day. And it's like, no, you don't. You're lying. You don't want to know about her. Like, she called you to lunch, and you're like, this could have been an email. Every time she says something, you're screaming. Like, I'm genuinely confused as to whether, like, SAI believes the words that are coming out of her mouth. But by some grace of God, we're able to move on, which, I will credit to their maturity, but I wouldn't have it in me. So it seems like Jessel and Sai just agree to kind of throw it out the window along with Aaron. And, Aaron did the whole fun parrot costume thing, which was fun. Like, look, the thing about Erin is she's having fun with it. It seems like she's gonna get over it, but I can guarantee you she's gonna bring it up again when it's convenient. That's all I'm gonna say. Sai's just like, let's just get over it. She specifically tells Jessel, like, sometimes you get on my nerves and I don't like you, and Jessel's like, sometimes you get on my nerves and I don't like you either. There are some crazy undertones in there. Like, to say that you don't like somebody is very, not to say that they're wrong, because I definitely agree that they don't like each other, and I may agree that one party shouldn't like the other party. I'm not going to say any names, but to say that, but in the same breath say let's just move forward, I don't know how that works, but I'm going to wish them all the luck in the world. It was also interesting seeing Sai's husband David have a similar conversation with Jenna, basically telling her, like, Sai speaks so highly of you. The only thing she says is, like, sometimes you're not really being yourself or something like that. Like, basically, it doesn't seem like you're opening up either. Like, essentially the same thing. Like, Sai obviously has this issue with everyone, right? Like, they have to open up to her more. And it was nice to see Jenna. We saw a lot of this earlier in the season. Like, Jenna really clock and analyze that in her confessional. And she's just like, look, me opening up is dependent on the landing pad. Like, who am I opening up to? Like, how is it being received? So, hello, like, that's us acknowledging that, like, Sai is not, you're begging people to open up, but you're not necessarily this vessel of being open. Like, why would anybody want to come to you about anything? Sai basically explained that, because she comes up for this conversation as well, she basically explains, like, she gets mad when Jenna doesn't act confident, and it's like, why does that make you angry? Like, that's weird. That's really weird. Lastly, we get this very oddly placed conflict. That's why I'm saying it left me like, what the heck is going on? And like, they can do more. So, okay, like, I guess that'll open us up for next season, but it probably even won't. Like, they probably will just resolve it at the reunion and we just start over with something new next season. So I don't know. It was just a weird ending for me. Basically, Brynn standing up and she's like, hey, like, Uba, because Uba was just on the phone cackling. And she's like, hey, Uba, I heard you have a man in Connecticut. So, like, Uba didn't seem to get too feisty at Brynn. Like, you could tell that she was upset, but her pieces had already been put together that if Brynn's saying it, she heard it from Sai, because she only shared that information with Sai. And we get the background story after Sai spilled the beans to Aaron, which I thought maliciously, or strategically at least. They went to dinner that night for Brynn's birthday. So the three of them were talking, and Sai says, blame it on the liquor. She got drunk, and she gave some more information, which included the fact that he lived in Connecticut, I guess. And the premise of that meeting was them, deciding that they were the trusting circle, like they could trust each other alliance, which was already happening before they said anything. Now Sai's trying to, again, be messy and share Jenna's information, thinking that it's not going to come out, but it comes right out from Brynn at her party. So they're beefing and Sai screaming in her face, but it seems like the debate is whether it was talked about on camera or not. And it's weird to be sitting there arguing about that, because at the end of the day, Sai, you told Uba's business to two people and you weren't supposed to do that. But you're trying to be vindicated as to whether you did it on camera or not. Who cares? But Uba decides she's leaving and she's outside on the phone. I'm sure still cackling with her man. And Sai's coming out to again vindicate herself and like, girl, it didn't happen on camera, even though you're wrong regardless. But Uba's not trying to do it. Like, it seemed like Uba was off work, baby, and she's like, I'm on the phone with my man. I don't want him to hear this chaos. I'm done. Like, girl, whatever. We'll talk about it later. And Sai is allegedly not going to rock with Brynn anymore. Whatever. We'll see what happens at the reunion. It was an interesting season. Like, I don't know, again, where the dynamics lie. Like, they're very up and all over the place for me. And I mean that in the sense of, like, I couldn't even tell you who's closest to who. Like, obviously, the ladies are gonna have scats and cadaddles, and they're gonna get into it, and they're gonna make up to break up, and break up to make up, and all of that. But I mean, like, who on here would I say, like, oh, they're buds, like they're cool. They're having a good time. We don't even have that alliance that was newly formed because Brynn broke that up. So I just don't know. That's the only thing that I really think of. But I think it was a good season, and I think we got to learn a lot about each of the ladies individually and their little quirks and kinks and red flags and things like that. So I liked that. I liked it. Again, I don't have anything to compare it to because I've only seen one season of the former New York Housewives, and that was season 13, the one before this, which I said I watched for Ebony. So, I don't know what you guys may have seen, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good season. I'm looking forward to seeing them come back, and we will see what happens. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all in the next review for a new show.